Today's breaking news that UNESCO has qualified Belgium's beer culture as part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. There are now nearly twice as many breweries in Europe as there were in 2010. This cohabitation of brewers, large, medium and small in Europe, is what helps make the beer sector such a fascinating example of European enterprise.
One most obvious is income growth that you can see in Russia, in Brazil, in China especially. And then with income growth and urbanization, there's another big factor driving the consumption and trading in beer. But that also points to another segment, is us, the female drinkers.
When we look at the development in the last 10 years, we've seen a constant growth in EU exports, and it's the number one exporter in the world, very closely followed by the US, however. We had a low year in 2009 because of the economic crisis, but then as from 2010, exports are constantly growing, and that is also the year we became a net exporter of agri-food. And what's driving this is notably there are several factors for it, obviously, but one of them is that the EU is a competitive exporter of products at all levels of the production chain. And beer, like you mentioned, indeed, so we noticed last year it actually was a number 5 when we look at the increase in values of exports. And notably to some of our key markets, like the US and China. But in the US, of course, as you well know, I'm sure, half of our exports consist of beverages. So it's wine, spirits, and beer.
Beer sector in general is let's say, global frontrunner for investment in emerging markets among the agri-food sector. Also, the study has shown that if you compare other sectors in the agri-food product segment, the beer industry has most headquarter subsidiary links, and most, of course, this investment coming from the big headquarter centers in Europe, and they are spread all around the world. In Asia, has seen a lot of growth in the past 10, 20 years, and the new trend, a lot is happening, of course, in Africa.
If you want to obtain 1 whole liter of pure alcohol, it's a lot more expensive to do it through beer than through spirits. This is obvious because beer, it contains 4.5 of alcohol, but then it contains a whole more volume that you need to produce that goes together for beer. If you take these ratios, you find that the production of the cost of producing beer are 2.5 times more expensive than spirits and 1.5 more expensive than wine. This is very interesting because, again, in terms of pure alcohol, producing alcohol through the different ways is very, very different, and it's a lot more expensive for beer. Transportation of the drinks in terms of product is the same, obviously. In terms of pure alcohol, beer will always be disadvantaged because the alcohol is being carried with a lot of volume.
We do have more costs throughout the value chain. As it happens, the beer sector also doesn't receive any public subsidies, so this is, another part of the story. So, I mean, from a policy point of view, I think our message to regulators listening to Pau is that beer would in fact become disproportionately more expensive in relation to stronger drinks if excise was actually based only on alcohol content.
On alcohol content.
But the whole story does include the actual taxes paid for by the 2.3 million Europeans who actually work throughout the value chain. So that is in fact the picture. And what happens when excise duties or VAT hit consumer prices, well, is simply that this will actually, impact on not just the beer sector, but the overall economy, precisely because there is this ripple effect on other taxes.
Road safety has been a success story for the European Union. I can certainly mention the approach that is being taken, which is a comprehensive one. A combination, for example, of a very low BAC limit. So it needs to be clear that you should not drink and drive. What was fundamental compared to the previous generation is a change in the social norms which we have managed. Awareness campaigns, of course, enforcement, the subjective power of enforcement and the objective power of the enforcement.
We believe that there is no reason why the same approach can't be taken when it comes to, for example, tackling underage drinking. Mm-hmm. So what I mean by that is that, and it's really thanks to the partnership we've had with SMART, that we've come to the understanding that, you know, if you have all the ingredients we were referring to, and also I believe that's extremely important, the long haul approach.
Long term.
And the long-term approach. I mean, you know, if 98% of the Belgians nowadays know Bob as a designated driver, it's because the campaign have been lasting for the past 20 years. So this aspect of, you know, long-term is important.
The prize for Belgium today was also given because we were fighting for a moderate consumption. And you are right to support European Transport Safety Council and to help to work together to make it safe way that people drinking don't drive, which doesn't impeach that the Bob campaign, BOB, we are conducting, one is sacrificing, as they say themselves, at the night to be the safe driver.
Over 20 years, EU brewers' trade links have expanded to 123 countries. And many of the newer brewers are getting into the Act 2. Amongst the EU's top 10 agri-food export sectors, beer is now the fastest growing. The European Commission's efforts to bring down barriers in its trade negotiations can certainly benefit hugely the thousands of brewers, small and large, also looking outside the EU for further business expansion. Just the number of jobs created by beer in Europe, 2.3 full-time equivalents, is testament to how a prosperous brewing sector can help create growth and prosperity in Europe as a whole. Supportive policy also means minimizing the spread of policies that may inhibit the brewing sector from responsibly innovating, brewing, distributing and marketing its beers. Not only beer is back, but is back to stay. And the Brewers of Europe is more than ever determined to build on that trend while becoming the home of all the brewers of Europe.